In this morning's Health Watch, only children. The old stereotype says they tend to be selfish and lonely, but this week's Time magazine explores the new thinking about having just one child. Dr. Jennifer Ashton is here with the latest. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Erica.
So this is this old myth which has been around for more than a century, apparently based on one study of one only child.
That's right.
That found they're lonely, they're selfish, they're spoiled. Turns out it's not really true.
Yeah, it's a myth. And about 120 years ago, a psychologist by the name of Dr. Hall did a little bit of research, and as you say, little bit. And he actually was so sure with his findings that he considered being an only child a disease unto itself. That is clearly a myth now, and we know that as our standards of society have changed and evolved, that's really not true.
And there is even research now to support that as well, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, they have done research looking at only children in this country and other countries and found that actually, academically, they might do even better than children who come from families with multiple siblings. Socially, there is no difference. And in fact, because they're growing up with probably more adult contact, in some ways they might actually do a little bit better.
Who knew?
That's right.
And more people perhaps are choosing this, but as we look at the numbers of one and done, as people call it, where do we stand?
Well, let's look at those numbers. And if you look at the end of a woman's reproductive life, so this is actually women in their early 40s, age 40 to 44, the majority of them are still having more than one child, but 18% of them do have only one child. About a third, 31%, have two, and 20% have three. And the rest of this percentages falls out to either those with no children or obviously those with more than three children.
You mentioned, though, women nearing the end of their fertility life cycle, the end of that biological clock. That has a lot to do with it, I would imagine, your age.
Absolutely. There are medical factors here, there are societal factors, there are even financial and economic factors, and absolutely we know that fertility declines as a woman gets over the age of 35, let alone 40. Women are delaying childbearing. So for a number of reasons, some of them might be medical, some of them might be logistical, women are deciding, and their partners, to only have one child. And fertility reasons, medical reasons are one reason for that.
And you mentioned briefly the economy, but I know that's had a big effect as well, because we all know how expensive it is to raise one child, let alone two,
That's
three.
right. And actually, if you look at the average cost of a child from birth to just before college to about the age of 17, it costs about $222,000 to raise that child, which represents a 22% increase since 1960. So, you know, there are a lot of reasons that people might want to just stop after one.
It hurts to look at that number.
That's painful.
Real quickly, what about this myth that we're hearing, true or not, that you might actually be happier with only one child?
That was a study done in the Danish population and actually found that mothers of just one child are happier than those who have multiple children. Now, again, there could be some selection bias there, but when you look at the stress potentially on a marriage that having multiple children and doing all you can to raise those children gives can be a factor.
It is exhausting. Now that I have two,
Yes,
I understand it. Jen, thanks.
You bet.
A lot happens early on The Early Show, weekday mornings on CBS.